What is up, Rogue family? My name is Crim, and we have got ourselves some assassination buffs. With the regional restarts coinciding with the release of Mythic Castle Nathria, Assassination is receiving a 5% damage buff across the board. So in today's video we'll have a look at what kind of impact this is going to have on the viability of the spec, and we'll look at some of the changes I would like to see to the Assassination spec. Before we start, don't forget to join the giveaway that I'm running for a Landros Little XD loot card. I'll leave a link in the description. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Rogue content. Let's get straight into it. Let's take a look at the numbers behind this 5% buff and see how far it goes towards making Assassination a viable raid spec again. I've took some info from Warcraft logs, and the info on your screen right now is from the Shriekwing heroic fight, a mostly single target fight with some downtime, which is a decent indicator of how specs perform on single target. As you can see, Assassination is pretty far behind both Outlaw and Subtlety, and in purely numbers terms, it is probably a little bit over 10% behind both of the specs. So while the 5% is a good step, it probably needs another 5% and could even use a little bit on top of that before it really becomes viable again. In low target cleave, the differences are a bit less. Assassination is pretty decent there. But all of these sims that we currently have for all of the rogue specs as well show that the 5% buff really isn't going to make it or break it for Assassination. Let's next then take a look at how the spec itself plays, some flaws in the design, and some things that I would like to see changed going into the next patches perhaps. So next let's talk a bit about what I think the inherent playstyle flaws are for Assassination. Let me start this off by saying I think on single target Assassination is pretty alright, albeit a bit slow and currently undertuned. One thing I would like to see change though is a suggestion made by Saliathan, a rogue community figure who also does a bit of guide writing over on Icy Veins. His suggestion during the beta was for every use of Shiv, your next Envenom would proc a Poison Bomb, one of our level 50 talents. I think this would be a welcome change and would make pressing Shiv feel a little bit better. So if single target is fine, my main issue is going to be with low target cleave and sustained or big AoE pools. And the issue is mostly in our last two talent rows for me, the level 45 and level 50 talent rows. In our level 45 talent row, we currently have Venom Rush, Alacrity and Exsanguinate as our choices. Exsanguinate was the go-to single target talent for a lot of BFA, especially with haste corruptions. It's currently not super strong, but could be better once we gain more haste and if bleeds are empowered in one way or another. The current go-to pick is Alacrity. It is very strong in both single target and AoE and is what most Assassination rogues will pick at the moment. The main problem is with the last remaining talent, which is Venom Rush, which is currently very undertuned and pretty much unpickable in any situation. What I would like to see here is a reworked Toxic Blade, which is something that Blizzard promised when they first started talking about reworking all the specs back at the Shadowlands announcements. I would really like to see some sort of AoE component added to Shiv for this particular talent. I think that would be a great addition and make Assassination slightly stronger in AoE pools in both low target and high target situations. I think this would be easy to balance because you can target cap this or have it reduced at X% effectiveness. And of course, if you guys have any ideas for things you would like to see changed to Assassination, make sure to leave it in the comments and we can have some good chats about all of this. On the last row, we have another 3 talents in the form of Poison Bomb, Hidden Blades and Crimson Tempest. Poison Bomb is the go-to single target talent at the moment, and I think this is in a pretty decent spot. So let's have a look at Hidden Blades and Crimson Tempest instead. Crimson Tempest is the go-to for sustained big AoE pools at the moment, but it is another maintenance buff on a spec that is already quite maintenance heavy. I personally would really like to see this adjusted and make it more of a low target cleave talent. So one way to achieve this would be to have it perhaps spread bleeds to a secondary or even tertiary target, and it could also empower bleeds if necessary. Both of those are values that you can adjust to balance this better. You may recognize this from the Tiny Toxic Blade legendary, or its first iteration anyway. I remember seeing this and thinking that would be a really cool mechanic. However, it wasn't really legendary worthy, and it was in the end also reworked. I think this would be very cool to make Crimson Tempest into. That leaves us with the Hidden Blades talent, which really focuses on enhancing the power of your Fan of Knives. I'm personally a big fan of having Fan of Knives be your main big AoE spell, so I would really like to see some power added to this. We already have the Poisoned Catarrh Conduit, which further enhances the power of your Fan of Knives, and I think if this talent were to be buffed or changed slightly, it would really make Assassination far more viable in big AoE pools and Mythic Plus. One easy way to do this would be adding the Equine Blades functionality, which was an Azerite trait that we had in BFA. Whenever your first Fan of Knives crit, it would fire out a second Fan of Knives again. Currently we are not critting a whole lot, which is part of the reason why Fan of Knives feels so bad at the moment. You rely on the crits of Fan of Knives and your Seal Faith passive to build combo points, which currently it does not. So the exact functionality of Equine Blades may not be fantastic, but you could, for example, have a second Fan of Knives fire out if you hit X amount of targets. Functionality that is already in place, for example, for Priest's Holy Nova, which fires again at X% effectiveness when you hit 3 or more targets. I think all of these changes, or perhaps some variant of those, would go a really long way to make an Assassination more viable in both low target cleave and AoE and even Mythic Plus. As I said before, please let me know what you guys think would be good additions or changes to the Assassination spec to make it more viable or more fun to play. With that, I think we are done for today. Follow me on Twitter at Crim_IRL and come find me on my stream twitch.tv/CrimWow. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video.